He pretended things happened that didn't and would say things didn't happen that did. He lied all the time, but I could improve most of them. So that is a big thing. And, with narcissists, they will lie, and until there's evidence against them, they will lie. And then once they get caught in a lie and they know they can't, they're caught now, there's nothing more they can do, then that's when they blame shift. I call it swinging the spotlight too, because it's like, okay, now we gotta put the spotlight on your behavior, your reaction to my behavior, not my behavior.
Hey everyone, we are here with Narcissist. I'm Asking for a Friend podcast, and my name is Tyler King, and this is my co-host Karen Mom. And we have such an exciting topic for you today. Karen has found a great book to discuss our narcissistic relationships. And just remember, as we're going through and navigating these conversations, it's not a bashing session, so we're not bashing anyone that's a narcissist. We always want to come from a empathetic, a Christian perspective, and just helping people to be able to live through these trying relationships and giving them hope, inspiring them, and giving them actually the tools and knowledge to be able to figure out the path that they want to take to have an emotionally stable, healthy, mind and relationships moving forward. So Karen, let's get into it. What is the book that you have for us today, and what will we be?
Well, I'm sure our listeners, if they have a narcissist in their life, they probably often have asked themselves this question.
Is it me?
Is it me? And this is written by Natalie Hoffman. So a lot of the statements that are made, they're coming, they're using, he undermined me, he did this, because she's written the book about a wife dealing with this narcissist. But of course, remember, we also know that narcissists can also be females. Yes. And men can be married to one or in a relationship with one. And so know that we are, not biased here. We do understand that it can be that way. So, but I will get right into it. This writer, she's a Christian, and she is also, let me just read the back of here. Natalie Hoffman is a writer and life coach for women of faith in destructive relationships. She offers educational courses and group mentoring through Flying Free. And she has a private support community, which is called Flying Free. So at flyingfreenow.com. So if you do decide to get the book and you want to continue further, you'll see that information on the book itself. And so here on page 90 of the book, she says this: in the next 4 chapters, we'll be looking at the roles everyone plays in a destructive marriage. Your partner's role, your church's role, your counselor's role, your family of origin's role, your friend's roles, and your pastor's role. We need to understand how a destructive marriage grows, is nurtured, and is perpetuated by all of these different players.
Wow.
Then we'll look at God's role. What is his involvement in a toxic marriage? If we claim to be followers of Jesus Christ, we need to be in alignment with his perspective of destructive marriages, the people in destructive marriages, and the people who support and enable destructive marriages. Let's begin by looking at the role your partner plays. And so she says his behavior for number 1. So this is like a whole bunch of little bullet points. I think you can see.
Yes, nice.
And so all those bullet points, we're not going to cover every single one today because there wouldn't be enough time, but I want to cover some of these. So, quote, he undermined my intuition and perceptions to get me to doubt myself so he could get control. So that is definitely, like a gaslighting thing. So if if they can get you to, think that you're the crazy person, I must be crazy. Everybody loves him, or everybody loves her.
Right.
And actually, I kind of almost feel like they side with him, so it must be me.
Right.
And so, especially if like she talked about that whole group of people and different roles that they play, if they're making it or they're taking his side, he or she is so charismatic, everybody loves them, it's got to be me.
Exactly.
He criticized my parenting to the point where I thought if only I was dead, my kids might end up with a better stepmom.
Oh, that's horrible.
It is horrible. Yeah. Question yourself that much and feeling so alone and feeling like nobody's on your side. You know, not that this should be a thing about taking sides, but because he creates that, or she
Right.
creates that, the narcissist creates that where people start to feel like they have to pick sides.
Mm,
They drag people into it. You know, that then makes the person that's the victim feel like it again, is it me?
right.
He would turn and walk away when I caught him in one of his lies. He
Mm,
threatened cruel punishments for the kids to get to me, to get me to say no way, so he could accuse me of not submitting to his leadership. So
ooh.
yeah, that's a
Now
tough.
give an example of that. That's an interesting one.
Well, I've actually heard of that situation with in pastoral homes where and I don't even just say pastoral, it could be leadership in a church, doesn't have to be,
Right.
or it could be a
Right.
deacon. Somebody that feels like, well, people in the church, you know, believe my spouse because now he's a deacon or now she's a deaconess or whatever, you know, role that they play. And so they've already put the thumbs up on my character. So what's wrong with you that you don't and you don't follow what I say? Now, in this case, when it comes to submission, that sounds to me like a man that's
Right.
telling his wife she needs to submit to his headship. And then they'll use scripture, twist
Okay.
it to their, you know, benefit by making it sound like, well, now not only am I supposed to submit to you, but you're basically telling me I need to be your slave in whatever way. And so, and never say no and never have an opinion, you know, never be true to myself and my own identity, because I've got to say, make everything that you say, as gold, you know, and their job then too is to turn the kids and the church members and everybody against the victim.
Right, because that's like a touch on a religious narcissism and narcissism in a marriage, relationship. So that is like a double.
Right,
Um, ooh, that can really be hurtful.
right. And I was actually in a church at one point in my life where the narcissistic pastor, and actually I kind of feel almost like it's rare to see two narcissists together, but I feel like,
Right.
I don't know if it was just that one was kind of supporting the other, but there was I was on staff and there was a staff meeting and the pastor, the male pastor was married to the female pastor. And so she made a statement, and this is mind control.
Right.
She made a statement that she said to the staff, um, you should not be questioning my husband. And I don't think you realize it, but my husband can also read minds. So if you are questioning him and decisions that he makes, you better check your heart, because he can read minds and he knows that you're doing that. So
Mm.
it was a way to place fear in people, so that they would not ask questions and
Wow.
to get and have an ability to do whatever they wanted in their leadership and have nobody come against it.
Wow.
Yes, and
That,
so, yeah,
that's a doozy. It's like when you said that, it triggered something in my mind. I remember it being in a class, like a yoga class, and I remember a yoga teacher saying something like she could read minds. And it's almost like when someone makes a statement like that, it's like they're trying to assert power over you and control, and also maybe a little bit of fear, and trying to get you into submission or to not do anything against what they're trying to do or how they're trying to set things in an atmosphere, and to kind of get you in line, right?
yep, yep, exactly, and yes. And there's this thing then, you know, oh gosh, I better not even think something that, you know, I feel
Right.
they're saying, because let alone tell anybody anything I might think that's not right about what they're saying. I better not even think it. So yeah, it's definitely, it's mind
Mhm.
control. And you know, it's sad to think about some of the things that that couple did and how they really tore down a very large growing church. And it became a smaller, church, and then once it got small enough, they left
Oh, of course.
and went on to do other ministry.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure.
yeah. So it is, it is the reality in life is that you are going to see narcissists and all different disorders in every walk of life. You're going to see it. And so you just have to be, understanding that there's those people, I even think about, like with, there's a lot of this, the defund the police and all that. I think, we have to be careful, defunding any profession,
Right.
taking
Yeah.
away power from any profession, because not every police officer is
Right.
evil and twisted and will do horrible things. And I have seen some horrible things that police
Right.
officers have done.
Right.
But that's not every police officer. And
Right.
there are doctors that have done horrible things.
Yes.
Every profession, if you look at every profession, there are people that are evil and are tools of the enemy. And so we have to be careful not to pigeonhole any one group as they're all bad, because that's not true. We know that that's not true.
Right. And we also like it's a good point because you never want to think or work in extremes, right? Like all people are like this, every group is like that, every
Right.
whatever. And it's like that's not healthy either. You know what I mean? And don't narcissists normally speak like that? Like you always are you the you know what I mean? Like they kind of go
Yeah.
into extremes. You
Yeah.
never cook, you never clean, you never, you know what I mean?
Absolutes. Yes, they use the absolutes. And so,
Absolutes,
yeah.
right. So we
Yeah.
got to be mindful of that, especially as believers. You definitely want to be mindful of doing that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So let's see what the next one says. He had no empathy or care for me. He pretended things happened that didn't and would say things didn't happen that did. He lied all the time, but I could improve most of them.
Mm.
So that is a big thing. And, with narcissists, they will lie, and until there's evidence against them, they will lie. And then once they get caught in a lie and they know they can't, they're caught now, there's nothing more they can do, then that's when they blame shift. I call it swinging the spotlight too, because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now we gotta put the spotlight on your behavior, your reaction to my behavior, not my behavior.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I was in a relationship with someone that was like that. And what it was I called them out on something as far as with, relationships kind of going outside of it, doing their own thing. And it was like, once you put the proof out there, like it was no way you can deny it. Then it was like, it turned into a dramatic thing, like, oh well, I can't talk about this anymore, and I'm just so this, I'm so it turned into almost like a theatrics,
Yeah.
and then it was like, but if only you did this, and if only you did that. So then it became, like you said, that blame shifting. So I got the combination of the theatrics, like this is too much, this is too, I don't understand, and trying to act all emotional and all like, I can't believe this is happening, and why is this, why are you saying this, why are you bringing this up, and but it's you, and so yeah, it's definitely more common than what people think. And don't play into the emotional outbursts, oh my gosh, and the crying and the teary eyes, because it's because they got caught. They weren't teary eyed when you didn't present them with the evidence, and
Yeah.
you didn't confront them. But like once they knew they couldn't get around it, now all of a sudden the emotional, so don't fall for that.
Right, exactly. And also, if you don't show them the evidence right away, and
Right.
it's the question that maybe sounds a little accusatory,
Right.
they will rage at you, but then you show them that evidence, and then
Yes.
they'll become what you just said. They'll become
Right.
very childlike and
Mm-hmm.
tantrum and an
Yeah.
adult tantrum, and then you have this person that's, trying to make excuses for the behavior,
Oh
which
yeah, of course.
kids will do. Kids will make excuses for their behavior, and it doesn't, make sense, oh, why did you slap your brother? Well, he was changing the channel, stuff that doesn't, like silly little things that don't really make sense, right? But you'll hear that from an adult that is
Yeah.
caught in the middle of something. And so Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, it could be a situation, an instance like, why do you have condoms in your car and you're a married couple? You know what I mean? And it's just like you get confronted with that, you know what I mean? Or you find some other woman's stuff in the vehicle or something, and then it's oh my gosh, you know what I mean? It's like you just got caught, just admit it. So it's so sad because instead of just admitting it, they'd rather go into the theatrics, into the
Yes.
tantrum.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No accountability, no
Well,
ownership.
what they're looking for at that point is your empathy because you've been empathetic, obviously, because you
Right.
have in the first place. So that they're really, trying to drum up your empathy at that point because they know they're
Yeah.
in big trouble.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So here's one. He got everyone to believe his story. I had to figure things out by myself without any spiritual or emotional support. It was the darkest time of my life. And so I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with because they can be so charismatic. And
Yes.
if they're like a leader in the church, people are looking at them as, like they're God themselves sometimes.
Right.
And then those people, they hear that, maybe the leader has a sob story he shares or she shares with somebody else. And then
Mhm.
we're all, oh, poor guy, poor girl,
Right.
it makes the victim look like the bad person, and so everybody will believe
Right.
their story. And
Oh yeah.
the other thing is there's a competition that
Yeah.
goes on. The narcissist is competing with their significant other for attention, the attention of the church, attention to show people, to show that victim, listen, I'm better than you, so you
Right.
better, try to measure up to me because everybody else thinks I'm great. So I don't know what's wrong with you that you don't think I'm great and you're rebelling now. You have a rebellious spirit or whatever the however they want to say it.
Oh
And
yeah. Guilt tripping.
yeah,
Hmm.
I remember this one lady and she finally came to see me after her husband died. And
Oh.
she was, her struggle was that she was very, very timid, very, very meek, shy.
Mhm.
And she would say that, when she would go to church and there'd be like maybe a few people in a circle talking together, he would manage to always close off the circle and try to get her like almost like out of the circle
Oh, right on the
as
outside.
he was talking, or if she would try to say something in the circle, he would kind of look at her like, that doesn't even make sense. What you just said has nothing to do with talking about. So
Wow.
then she would kind of like just like be quiet. So then after a while, she just learned I
To
should
just
be
quiet.
quiet when he's
Mhm.
talking, when he's got his audience. So then, she just started to decide, I'm not gonna be in that audience anymore. I'm gonna let him have his fun, do his thing, and I'll do my own thing. So then she'd go
Right.
find somebody else to talk to,
Right.
immediately find her. And then he would start talking to that person. So
Right.
that was another way of isolating her now because she just gave up. She was just like, I couldn't even have friends because every time I would try to have a friend and talk to somebody by myself, he would always maneuver
Yeah.
back into
Assert
that.
himself. Oh wow.
Exactly. And
Mm.
so, it can be very blatant like that, and others might not be as blatant, but in that situation,
Right.
it's very
Oh
blatant.
yeah.
So
Definitely.
she was definitely somebody that lost her own identity,
Mm.
she could not figure out who she was, and so that's what she needed help trying to figure out. What do I even like?
Right.
What music do I like to listen to? What
Oh,
restaurants do I want to go to? She had nobody.
wow. And make sure you put it in the comments if you dealt with this. Put that in the comments. Make sure we want
Yes.
you've been through. So
Mhm.
yes, and then Karen, as we wrap this up, what are some of the final things that you've seen with the competition with these marriages and narcissistic relationships? What are some of the final thoughts you have?
Well, I think if any of our listeners are in that kind of a situation, um, you do need to make boundaries for yourself. You do need to communicate with that person to let them know that you do need to have other friends. You
Yes.
have a life outside of them. And right now you don't have that, but you do need it. If they've isolated you from your family, but you miss your family, I would say let that be your first step is opening back up that communication with your family, not allowing this person who's toxic to be your only means of communication. Because now you're so isolated and so brainwashed into thinking that it's you and that you're the problem here. And meanwhile, you're not. You just lost your identity and you need to get that back. And so I would say, start with your family if you've been isolated from them. If not, if you haven't been isolated from them, great, keep that going, but start making friends, find a hobby that you can do. If they put their foot down and said, no, you cannot do that, then especially if they have hobbies of their own that they do.
Right.
I would say, well, I'm going to be doing that. And that is a choice that I have, just like you have a choice to go and play golf, or you have a choice to go and hunt or whatever you might do. I am going to continue to look for something that I enjoy doing, and you really don't have, you don't control me. I control myself. So that's where this is gonna go. And so, and if you need to get another person involved in that, whether it be a pastor to help you to get that through to him or her, then you get another person involved, or a family member, to somehow do it that way.
Well, definitely. Well, I appreciate you, Karen, always giving the best and most great advice to help people navigate through these narcissistic relationships. And just so you know, just remember on the podcast YouTube channel, just remember to like, share, subscribe, and put your comments in, ask your questions. We want to hear from you. And if anything, we'd love to have you on the show as well. So in the meantime, we are Narcissists. I'm Asking for a Friend podcast, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Yes. Bye. Bye-bye.